Thank you. Living in Houston, it's not a rarity to see people begging for money at most major intersections, as I'm sure is common in almost every major American city. They hold battered pieces of cardboard up during red lights, giving the captive audience of motorists a brief synopsis of their plight, varying from homeless, hungry, anything helps, to will work for food, and even the more honest approach of why lie, need beer money. We've all heard stories of how some people engage in this type of panhandling are not poor, homeless, or hungry, but choose to spend all day grifting from soft-hearted Good Samaritans, then laugh all the way back to their Lexus, reveling in the success of their scam. Not all these roadside charity cases are running a scam, though. Most of them are legitimately homeless or find themselves in a bad spot in life. Even more of them, however, are actually 100% tinfoil hat-wearing, batshit crazy out of their minds. This is a story about one of those roadside entrepreneurs who popped up in an intersection close to my house. I lovingly dubbed this spectacular gentleman Toothless Willie, the lovable scamp tramp. Going forward, I'll refer to him as Willie for brevity's sake. Ever the innovative inventor of finding new and interesting ways to ask for money, Willie ran the gamut of bum beggar tactics. Sometimes his sign was the standard homeless and hungry that we've all come to know and love. And other times he chucked the sign altogether, opting instead to stand there looking as pathetic as possible, holding only a cup with hopes drivers understood its implication. Another time he was anxiously pacing the lanes of stopped traffic with a small piece of cardboard that simply said 66 cents, please. I didn't understand the relevance of that amount of money, but found myself digging through my cup holder trying to piece together the exact amount for him. One of my favorite Willie moments came when I stopped at the intersection on my way home from work one day to see him sitting in the turn lane with a 10-speed bike propped next to him. He held a small chunk of cardboard, mostly using it to keep the sun out of his eyes. The makeshift cardboard sun visor read, "New bike, $35. I shook my head and grinned as I drove by, wondering what poor sap in the neighborhood was having his $500 bike hawked on the side of the road for a minor pittance. I drove back 10 minutes later, and both Willie and the bike were gone. Not too long ago, I approached the intersection to see Willie standing on a wooden chair he'd gotten from who knows where, balanced on the median next to the turn lane. He was holding a brown paper bag that I guessed contained paint or glue or some other mind-bending, brain cell massacring form of hobo-huffing substance. He was waving the bag around, ranting about something from atop the chair, and I slowed as I approached, rolling my window down. "Don't jump," I yelled at Willie. "You have everything to live for." I chuckled, rolling my window back up as I headed down the road, fancying myself to be quite clever. The only regret I felt was that there wasn't a bigger audience to witness my comic genius. Just me and a huffed-up hobo with a penchant for pocket change. The next day was Sunday, and I found myself up extra early for whatever unknown reason, and decided to make the most of my early start by going to the gym. I'd never been by Willie's intersection that early before, and as I rolled up in the light of the dawn, I could see that Willie was absent from his post. I imagine he crawled off to sleep in his makeshift tent in the park, or behind the dumpster of the nearby convenience store. Even bums had to knock off sometime and get some rest. Once I was at a complete stop, something caught my eye on the ground in the empty lane next to me. It was a paper bag, curled up at top to keep its contents safe. Of course, it was the bag crazy old Willie was waving around and talking to the day before. I mean, what else could it be? The light turned green, but I did not move. My curiosity was piqued, and I felt I had to know what was in this bag. I don't know why I felt this way exactly. Maybe it was some subconscious need to be connected to Willie through knowing what exactly it was that he spent his days using to further slowly erode away the remaining bit of sanity and clear thinking from his being. The light cycled back through to red, but no one was around to be upset that I didn't move. I checked my mirror and made sure no cars were coming behind me as I shifted into park and popped my door open. In 2 short steps, the bag was in my reach, and I bent over to pick it up. It seemed a little damp and discolored at the bottom, and for a hobo huff bag, it didn't smell like glue or paint or anything I'd associate with getting high on. If I had to put a label on it, I'd say it smelled like hamburgers that had been cooked at the beginning of a barbecue, then left to sit in the sun all day until someone was drunk enough not to care and eat them. I gave it a shake and thought it felt like maybe it contained a few rogue French fries that had escaped their greasy cardboard coffin to take refuge in the bottom of the sack. I took another look around to make sure I wasn't about to be run down as I rolled open the bag, which I then promptly dropped when I saw what was inside. It wasn't French fries or resonated containers of poison-fumed glue. It was a bag of fingers. 3 swollen, filthy, hairy human fingers. If I had to guess, I'd say index, middle, and pinky. The bag hit the ground with a dull smack, and I could see the fingers bounce in unison through the opening. I leapt backwards into my car, slammed the door, put it in gear, and peeled out through the red light. Fingers? Fucking fingers? Really? Was this what Willie was into? My mind flashed to a scene in which Willie walked up to cars for his requested 66 cents, only to grab the driver's hand, slicing off fingers with ninja-like speed and precision. What the fuck was he doing with fingers? The farther I got away, the clearer it became. I was going to have to go back. I couldn't just leave a bag of human fingers in the middle of 34th Street. Not on Sunday, at least. It was the Lord's Day, for Christ's sake. I pulled a U-turn at the next opening in the median and made my way back to Willie's bag. When I pulled into the convenience store parking lot at the intersection's corner and saw the bag still in the street where I'd dropped it, I knew what I had to do. I pulled my phone out and pocket and called the police. I'll spare you the details of my conversation with the local dispatcher, but let's just say they ask quite an interesting array of questions when you tell them you found a bag of fingers. Within minutes, a police officer was there, and then another one, and then 2 more. I guess it was slow morning, or when the call involves a brown bag of body parts, everybody wants in on it. The whole ordeal became blown into a much bigger thing than I had expected. They closed the intersection down and brought in dogs to search the area. They took my statement over and over again, like they were waiting for me to confess or give them the piece of the puzzle they'd need to break the case wide open. I kept telling them what I knew about seeing Willie there all the time and how I'd seen him the day before on the chair swinging around the bag. I even told them about my "don't jump" joke. They didn't find it as funny as I did. I kept waiting for Willie to pop out at any moment to begin his day of begging so I could point him out and have the questions directed at him, but he never showed. I ended up being there for almost 3 hours before they finally let me go. The police never did contact me again, and Willie never surfaced, and that intersection has been taken over by a new hobo I refer to as Piss Pants Steve, for obvious reasons. I scoured the internet for any news I could find about the bag of fingers, but there was nothing anywhere beyond the initial report. There were no follow-ups, no mention of the identity of the fingers. Were those Willie's fingers? Had he and a rival hobo been playing some sort of high-stakes game in which the loser loses his fingers, a la the movie 4 Rooms? I've told this story countless times at bars and parties to the point of annoyance. But I still never found out what happened to good old Willie. Every time I pull up to that intersection, though, I imagine Willie out there somewhere with 3 less fingers holding signs, requesting odd amounts of pocket change, while waving around bags of God knows what, and ranting at anyone and everyone all at once. Shine on, you crazy diamond. Shine on.